Nithyananda, welcome to the Blissful Athlete, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just was really inspired by somebody. Somebody had me reflecting on this question the other day, how I became a yoga teacher. And as soon as I started thinking about it, right away, all these thoughts and stories started popping up in my mind. And I have so many to share. And so I thought, what better way than to do a video on this? And so that's what we're doing today on this live stream. And so I really don't want the context of this to be about me and sharing. Yeah, I'll be sharing my story and my journey, but I really would like people, what I want people to take away from this is just to walk away inspired to practice and learn more about authentic yoga and discovering more about their own yoga practice by going back to the scriptures and expanding themselves by learning of these scriptural references that we're constantly talking about with Nithyananda Yoga. Everything in Nithyananda Yoga is about going back to the original source scriptures, the pramanas. And so my journey is certainly an interesting one. It's not what you would think, being a Canadian born professional ice hockey player, and all of a sudden, going from this meat eating, partying lifestyle to this straight arrow practicing Hindu. And now today I'm a yoga teacher, an ordained Nithyananda Yoga Acharya by my guru Bhagavan Nithyananda. And so I'm really excited to actually share these stories. There's a lot of things that people don't know about my guru, and how things have developed with the yoga practice and the ritual of yoga, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of all of these fruitions, all of these manifestations of authentic yoga, of the Pratama Vinyasa Krama, being directly trained by Swamiji. There's a few times where he's given me some really in-depth and powerful instructions that, and I plan on sharing a few of those today as well. So if you're interested in listening to these stories, I know you're going to get a ton from them as well for not only your own practice, but your own spiritual journey. And I do promise that you will gain some benefits from this. And so before I jump into this, I'll start off with the Sadguru Vandanam, our prayer, and then I'll share a bit more about how this all came about and how I discovered yoga itself. Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadiraksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Okay. Welcome everybody that's here live. Thank you so much for tuning in. Extremely excited to have you all here today. If you feel like asking some questions, 100% please feel free to do so, and I will get to those in about 20 minutes or so. We'll jump into the Q&A part. So if you have any questions, if anything pops up in your mind, excuse me, if anything pops up in your mind throughout the story as well, feel free to jot those down, leave them in the comment section. I'll be glad to get to those. But first, as I said, and as I've titled this video today, it's all about how I became a yoga teacher. And really, I hope, as I said, that you can take something away from this in a positive manner to inspire you in some way to start practicing yoga as per the scriptures. And my first introduction to yoga was probably very similar to a lot of people in the West. I didn't know much about it outside of it being this practice where, for me as a hockey player, it helped with flexibility. And so my team and we would go to a few different classes throughout the seasons, and not too often, but it was just a way of relaxing the body, improving our flexibility, and just a real light workout. And that was my introduction to yoga. And I think that's a very common introduction for a lot of people in the West, that it's this practice for improving your flexibility. And now a little bit people are starting to understand that it has benefits for the mind. It's a meditative practice itself. But still, that's really just the tip of the iceberg of what it is. And of course, I was not seeking to know that. I was not somebody that was interested in learning more about that. And so I just didn't. And I continued on with my hockey career. I was fortunate enough to become a professional ice hockey player. And after some time, I fell into this deep depression, actually. And I felt like just my life was a failure, even though I was living the dream. And I attained this status that a lot of people would have loved. A lot of Canadian-born kids, they would love to have the opportunity to play professional hockey. But for whatever reason, I realized that wasn't the purpose of life. And I got really depressed, really disappointed, really sad, like just completely negative. And I hit rock bottom in life, and I became actually quite suicidal. I had suicidal thoughts. And without diving too much into that, though, I was fortunate enough to finally be open to seeing the light and seeing the possibility that, there is something more to our reality. And I was never a spiritual person before, but I guess by this time I was now ready to be a spiritual being. And so I started learning different sciences, and I'm really grateful to actually, modern day quantum physicist, Dr. John Hagelin, I believe his name is. He's a physicist that shows the science of the unified field. And the unified field is just this all-pervading consciousness that is everywhere and in everything. And I understood this, that, my individual consciousness and this all-pervading consciousness is the same thing. And then that kind of clicked for me with yoga and this having cosmic consciousness. And so when these two things kind of came together, I needed to understand the science first. That made sense to me. And so that, among a lot of other things, started happening in my life, these clicks and these experiences to another. And I came across this guru on YouTube. I had no idea what a guru was at the time. It turns out it was Swamiji Bhagavan Nithyananda Paramashivam. And he gave me this super conscious experience where it was just through watching a YouTube video. There was a meditation, and at the end of it, and all of a sudden I closed my eyes and I meditated, and it was like my consciousness had now exited beyond just my body, and it was now like much wider outside of myself. And at the same time, I felt his presence in that space as well. And it was just such a blissful, amazing experience. And after the meditation was over, I was like, whoa, what was that? Like I experienced something incredible there. And so I jumped to one of his programs. I flew overseas, and I was fortunate enough to, at this time, be a participant with him conducting these programs, which was called Inner Awakening. And during the 21-day program, he awakened my Kundalini. Like, I felt this Kundalini shoot up within me, and, gave me so many different blissful experiences, helped me just go beyond so many pain patterns. And like, I could do a whole hour-long session on all the benefits and the experiences I had from Inner Awakening itself. But it made me become my true identity, more towards my true identity, which is that I am the divine. I am Paramashiva. And this is the exact purpose of what yoga is. And during these 21-day Inner Awakening programs, I ended up taking it, I think, I took it 2 times, because I just experienced like so much from the first session, or the first time around. And so during these programs, I experienced Nithyananda Yoga. And Nithyananda Yoga, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's just basically yoga as per the scriptures. There's no like twists and turns. It's just everything is aligned to what the scriptures are, what the scriptures say. And so this was just really inspiring to me, because here I was, this Western boy growing up, and I just thought, this is how yoga is. It's this practice where you work on your flexibility, and it's helps with your mindset a little bit, and that's it. But there's so much more to it. The depth of yoga itself, it's beyond words. It's beyond, it's only an experience. And when you align your practice more and more and more towards authentic yoga, you become more integrated to it, to the scriptures, because this is a science, right? That's like 2 + 2 is always going to equal 4. Paramashiva, when he gave the science of yoga, the science of uniting yourself with the cosmos, becoming Paramashiva, embracing Paramashivatva, when you align and implement the science, that's how it manifests. And so I started to learn and understand from Swamiji that yoga is actually a ritual. And it's not just some practice for flexibility. Of course, the physical health benefits is very prominent and has nothing but an important part of any practice, because a yogic body, it does include flexibility. Swamiji says a yogic body is power, energy, flexibility, and health. And so you need to have all those 4 qualities, and asanas, the practice of asanas, helps make that happen. But as I started to learn about yoga from these programs, when I went back home and I was playing hockey, because during this time I was still playing professionally, I was inspired to take a teacher training course just to learn more about yoga. And so I took a teacher training course while I was playing hockey still. And during that time, it was like cool to learn some of these things, but I realized how far off it was from what I was learning in India from my guru. What Swamiji is teaching is everything's per the scriptures, but there was just a couple books that you would read from that there was no scriptural references for anything. And so for me, the two just weren't adding up, and I wanted to learn more and wanted to experience more. And so that, among other things, I ended up deciding to leave hockey, and I traveled back to India, and I lived in my guru's ashram. Before I made that commitment to live there for as my life, I attended a program called Nithyananda Yoga, where you live in the ashram, and it's like you can feel it out in a sense. And during that time, one day, somebody had come up to me and they're like, "Hey, we need somebody to teach yoga for this upcoming class tomorrow morning." And I had never taught a class. I took a yoga teacher training course because I wanted to learn more and develop my own practice, but I'd never taught a class. And during this time, all of these yoga classes, they would happen in the main hall, the main building in my guru's ashram called Rajya Sabha. And so my guru was never there, actually, like physically. There would always be a murti. And I'm going to actually give a scriptural reference on why the guru should be there. Actually, I'll just give it right now. Because a lot of people, they ask these questions, they see Swamiji even right now, like why do I always have Swamiji's murti, his image there? Because it's not just an image, it's his space, his energy is flowing through that. And any yoga practice should actually have the guru's presence there. And I'll give the scriptural reference. This is from the Srimat Sarvanyotra Agama. In verse 7, it says, having taken the usual ceremonial bath, so it's going to describe how to start a yoga practice. Having taken the ceremonial bath, maintaining purity in body and mind, having performed the succeeding rites, such as getting besmeared with vibhuti, which is the sacred ash, and sprinkled with consecrated water, which is what the achamaniyam is, having prostrated before Shiva and his Acharya, Guru, who has initiated him into the discipline of yoga, the sadhaka should attentively involve himself in the disciplines of yoga. So before every session, As per Shashtanga Yoga, the original sixth limb form of yoga as given by Paramashiva, so not Ashtanga, not the 8 limbs of yoga of Patanjali, but the six-limbed form of yoga, Shashtanga Yoga, given by Paramashiva, the guru's presence is required. You should prostrate before the guru before every class. And there's a bunch of other things that, as mentioned in the scripture as well, that talk about what you should be doing before the class or before the ritual, before and after. And so going back to the scriptures is so important. But anyways, during this time, I was asked to teach this yoga class, and Swamiji's Murti was there. In the morning time came, and I was like so concerned about what I was going to do. And it was my first class. I was nervous. I didn't, at the time somebody asked me, there was 5 hours until the class was going to happen. And so I didn't have time to really design a full on class or anything. And so here it is, it's 4 a.m. now in the ashram. I'm somehow, manifested this spot in front of all of these disciples and I'm supposed to lead the yoga class. And this is before the Pratama Vinyasa Krama had come about. And I just connected to Swamiji through the morning, through the prayer, Sadguru Vandanam. And before we got started, I just remember just wanting to connect to him so deeply. And I started the session, and about, I don't even think any asanas had happened yet. All of a sudden, the door to Rajya Sabha opens up, and it's Swamiji, and he starts walking towards the center to where the Simhasana is, where his seat is. And I just quickly grabbed his murti, moved it, and Swamiji sat down in his Simhasana, and he sat and watched over me during that yoga class. And it was the very first time I had ever taught a yoga class. Swamiji physically came and initiated me into being a Nithyananda Yoga Acharya. I just remember that whole time just being so grateful. Of course, I was trying to hide that emotion. How do you teach a yoga class completely aloof almost? So I was controlling that energy and that gratitude. But I just allowed it to flow through me as well as the class had gone on. And it was such an amazing experience to be initiated by your guru, by your master in person. It's put words into it. It's really tough to describe. And so that was my initiation into becoming a yoga acharya, to becoming a Nithyananda yoga teacher. And it was a very, very auspicious happening, because there's not too many people that can say that that's ever happened. And so that was just my initiation into becoming a Nithyananda Yoga Acharya. Though after that, as I said, I decided to become an Adinavasi, a Kailasavasi, and live in my guru's ashram. And my wife, she of course was living with me as during that time as well. And when we were there, Swamiji was just, the way he is he's continuously making things happen, continuously manifesting. And we had so many different projects, and my wife and I were in the Nithyananda Yoga department, and so many different projects that Swamiji was manifesting, making happen. He wanted and did revive various different things, including Shivastamba Yoga and Kundalini Raju Yoga, which is two of the most ancient forms of yoga, which is yoga on the pole and yoga on the rope. And during that time, we actually won 2 Guinness World Records for the largest rope and pole yoga classes. Swamiji was put those together, and my wife and I, we were the acharyas, the lead acharyas for those. During that time, I don't have the exact count, but we've taught, I want to say close to, and maybe much more than 20,000 different people yoga. And that could be either on the pole, the rope, or the mat. we were a part of so many different projects of reviving various different scriptures. And one of these main projects was the Pratama Vinyasa Krama, the 108 asana sequence. And to see how Swamiji made that happen. So if you don't know what the Pratama Vinyasa Krama is, it's the 108 asana sequence. And one day we were in the ashram, and there's always things going on. And I was fortunate enough to be called to Swamiji's personal room. It was called the Green Room. And in his room, there was me and I want to say about 5 or 6 other disciples that were all sitting in there. And Swamiji, he was like just sitting in samadhi. You could clearly tell he was in this deeper state of consciousness. And he comes out and he's just like, I feel pregnant with Mahasadashiva right now. Like he's just ready to burst. And he takes, he gets some vibhuti and he applies it on his forehead and on his body. And all of a sudden he just dips into samadhi and then just starts spitting out, not spitting out's the wrong word, but just expressing what authentic yoga is. And this is the first time that he revealed the 12 components of yoga. So yoga, it shouldn't just be asanas. It should also be containing pranayamas, mudras, bandhas, 12 different components in total. And during this time, Swamiji was first revealing that. And I was in there along with 2 other people. We were all typing absolutely everything down as fast as we could just to get everything that Swamiji was saying. And it was such an incredible thing to just witness and to be a part of, sitting in the room with 5 other of his closest disciples, watching him download and reveal all these different aspects of yoga. And I mean, he went deep into other components such as the matter and antimatter. He spoke about during Mahasadashivoham and Paramashivam, 2 of his other main programs. But during that time, there's my guru. He's just sitting there revealing all of these incredible truths, and I'm just quickly trying to type as fast as I can to make sure that we get everything that he was saying. And so during that time, he was revealing the 12 components of yoga. And if you practice Pratama Vinyasa Krama, you know that it is a very complex sequence, but it's the most authentic yoga sequence on the planet. And to be a part of that and to be initiated into the 12 components directly from him while he was in samadhi was an incredible thing to be a part of, to say the least. And then after that, that's when he wanted to take yoga to the next level. And he revealed the Pratama Vinyasa Krama, the 108 asana sequence. And later on, a few weeks, maybe not a few weeks, I want to say maybe it was that day itself we started, but I think about a week after we had started this new project, Swamiji had moved to the temple and he was just living in the temple itself. And so after this download that he had, our yoga team, we had a whole department that was working on this afterwards. Swamiji was directing us in compiling all these different scriptural references, and he was making the Pratama Vinyasa Krama. And our team we were doing all like the bookwork and making everything happen during that time. And we would work right outside of his office space and his living space and in the temple itself. And during that time, it was so, there was at one point, the whole sequence had come together, and Swamiji wanted to implement it and see its effect on our kundalini, on our bodies. And so myself and 2 other disciples, we actually went into Swamiji's living space, and we performed the Pratama Vinyasa Krama the very first time. with him watching over us, watching our energy, watching how it worked on our physical bodies. And when the sequence was over, he was like, perfect. Like he was just like, he was just so like, he was so happy with how it was now manifested. And to see it come from, Swamiji downloading this to speaking it, to putting it together, and then to seeing it, what its effect is on our bodies was something truly incredible to be a part of. And then the next program that had come around, Swamiji, he would sit in the center of the hall, or not the center, the center of the stage, and he would actually sit and take part in all of the yoga sessions. And during that time, there would be one acharya that was instructing and one acharya that was demonstrating. And so during these programs, I was fortunate enough to be one of those two acharyas. And I'm never going to forget Swamiji. One time the curtain was closing, and then right after it closes, Swamiji is like, Drita, you're doing it perfectly. And I just, your heart melts. Like, you can't put into words what it's like to be in the presence of such a master. Swamiji, without a doubt, is an avatar. He is the ultimate. I've been fortunate enough to be in the space of the Dalai Lama and various other gurus, but and all, nothing but respect and love towards them, and I revere them with a lot of just, what's the word I'm looking for? I revere them a lot, but their space, Swamiji's space, it's just completely different. His energy is like, you can feel the bliss radiating from him. And especially when you're performing yoga and he's right there, he's like just 10 feet away from you. There's not too many people that can say that they were that close to him during these yoga classes. And without a doubt, it is the most incredible yoga practice you can experience. And when Swamiji's not physically there, the science is such that if his Murti is there, his energy is radiating through that just as much. And I've felt this. I can feel this. I guess I'm more attuned to this energy now of feeling his presence, his space during yoga and just in general. And my wife and I, we've traveled throughout all across the world and went to different temples, different centers. And when we're practicing yoga, when Swamiji's Murti is there, his energy is flowing through that just as much as if his physical body is. And so just to like go from this hockey player that had nothing to do with yoga, like was not spiritual at all, to somehow get to be a part of this incredible journey and experience authentic yoga and be directly initiated by an enlightened being, by an avatar. You can't put this into words. And it's an experience like no other. And I just can't, like, gratitude isn't a strong enough word. And that in a nutshell is how I became a yoga teacher. It was just Swamiji. He was literally just guiding me the whole way. And I feel this because throughout my whole life, I was always interested in the body. I played ice hockey, but I loved training. I loved working on my body. And, after that, I was never actually all that flexible, but I started to explore these other dimensions of what it means to have a yogic body. And Swamiji's just guided me that whole way. And so the journey of what it's like to become a yoga teacher and to become a Nithyananda Yoga Acharya, one is, you really need to first acknowledge and accept that yoga is a Hindu ritual. And the more that you align and become more integrated to yoga as it's meant to be, as per the scriptures, the more the divine guides you, the more Paramashiva guides you. And that's exactly what happened with me. And Paramashivam manifested in the physical form as my guru, Bhagavan Nithyananda, and he just guided me beautifully and initiated me into all these different incredible yogic teachings. There's so many different. I mean, my wife and I, we ended up teaching 5 different Nithyananda Yoga teacher training programs that we were the head acharyas of. And when you compile all of the scriptural references, and then you get a chance to teach them and help people cognize and live these truths as well, it's just such a blessing. And so, and with that, maybe I'll just plug. Swamiji's given all of these teachings for free. A lot of people, they say, oh, like, he's charging money for his programs and everything. You can download and get everything for free. And I've already left a comment down below. It's pinned, where you can actually download the 1008 pramanas from the source book. That's what this book is here. But you can download the ebook, the PDF, freely at that link. And so if you're interested in this book, it is the most auspicious, the greatest thing that could have ever happened to the yoga world, in my opinion. Especially if you're a yoga teacher, somebody that wants to just authenticate their practice. There's 1008 pramanas, scriptural references, that you can read and look through and apply to your day-to-day life. And so it is what Nithyananda Yoga represents. It's the pramanas, it's the scriptural references, the source texts themselves. And so I highly recommend to anybody to download and to read through the book itself. It's honestly one of the biggest blessings to the planet, in my opinion. So with that, I'll maybe end my story time there. I know I kind of dragged on a little bit longer than 20 minutes, so I appreciate everybody's patience with that. And I mean, man, there's a lot of different stories I could share as well. Maybe I'll save those for another time, though. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to that. Alberto, Mr. Lucas, and Yoni, Ashok, how are you guys? Nithyanandam, thank you so much for being here. Ashok was asking, why did you choose Shaivism and not Vaishnavism? The only reason was that I didn't choose. It was like I was just guided perfectly to Shaivism. And for those that don't know, Shaivism and Vaishnavism, they're both different aspects of Hinduism. They're different paths. And for me, I mean, I was guided towards Shaivism, and I didn't choose Shaivism. But now, like, looking back, and if I could analyze and make a decision, I would choose to be a Shaivite without a doubt. And it was just destiny for me to become a Shaivite. Nityanandam Tai. Sandeep is asking, can lust ever be defeated in your opinion? Asking from a brahmacharya perspective. Yeah, that's a good question. Lust can be defeated. I would say the energy can be transmuted, and you can convert that energy into a positive light. So for instance, lust, yes, it's this energy to, like, the seed itself is a life-giving energy. You can transmute that by not ejaculating. You can transmute that energy, the bindu, and turn that into a life-giving energy in a different form, in a different way. Manifest it in your day-to-day life through just life itself. So I would say in that way it would be defeated, but it's not necessarily like you have to like defeat it. It is an energy that we want to use. We just need to use it in a different way. That's how I would answer that question, Sandeep. Kavan, I'm excited for time travel. Yes, I hear you. 12 Roots, will extraterrestrial beings ever reveal themselves to the world? I think so. It's just a matter of time, in my opinion. The thing is, Swamiji even says, like, they're not even extraterrestrial beings. Like they are, like, we're all just beings. And Hindus, they used to time travel. They used to communicate continuously with all these other beings from different lokas, different dimensions. And so it's just a matter of time until that happens again, I would say. Kavan is asking or saying, I created a yoga practice when I was younger and deeply connected it to my breath. It's too lovely to see and know Swamiji. I felt isolated and strange away from the crowds, but now I'm seeing how auspicious our lives have been from the beginning. Absolutely. I hear you, Kavan. If you have not practiced the Pratama Vinyasa Krama, if you have not yet tried it, I would highly, highly recommend trying that as well. You creating your own practice is amazing, and I'm sure it's helped you in a lot of different ways. An enlightened being, an avatar creating a practice is on a completely different level. Like if you could go and choose any yoga teacher that you and follow their class, you know, if an avatar is there and he's like, yeah, I got this in my class, like I know I would just directly go to that being. I would go to that avatar, that guru, to guide me directly over, and nothing against anybody else, but there's no comparison. And I would say the same for even myself. Like even when I feel that I've created the perfect sequence for myself, it is never the truth. Like we, by our very nature, limit ourselves. We can't even cognize what we're capable of, what our possibilities are. And so I would say the same thing is happening when we create a yoga sequence ourselves compared to when a master creates a yoga sequence. So I would definitely recommend trying Kavan. I would definitely recommend trying the Pratama Vinyasa Krama, and let me know what your experience is. I'm sure it would be a powerful one. Living Jita Hadrid, I just recently started my YouTube channel as a Jnana Acharya. Please check it out. I'd like to have your feedback. Okay, I'll do that. Hansaroju, can you teleport and save people's lives? I am not able to teleport. No, not at the moment. I've not yet manifested that, but I would say, and a lot of, abusers and people, doubters this is where they would jump in. But I believe that, yes, it's possible. It already happens in us. At any moment, at any given point in time, a part of you is actually teleporting and you don't even realize this. This is what quantum physics has actually proven. You have strange and anti-strange quarks in your body. They're called strange and anti-strange because scientists don't know where these particles of you are going. They just disappear and then reappear at random times. This is science. In your hand, in your body, you're having particles all of a sudden just disappear and then just reappear. So a part of us is already teleporting, and it's just a matter of us being able to control that. And a lot of different enlightened masters and sages and rishis and yogis talk about this being a possibility and even expressing these powers themselves. So it is a possibility. Mr. Lucas, thank you, bro. I'm blessed to have you come across your video. Is Shiva Dance of Death a yoga sequence? Thanks. I appreciate the kind comment. Is Shiva Dance of Death a yoga sequence? I'm not sure what the Shiva Dance of Death is actually. So maybe I'll have to check that out, or leave me another comment with a link and I'll check that out. Hansa Ruju, I will take Diksha in late February. What tip can you give me? What tip can I give you? First of all, congratulations. Taking Diksha, being initiated by Swamiji it's an incredible blessing. The only tip I would give you is just be open. Be in a complete of a space as you can be. So if you wanted to, I would recommend doing completion process before that, and just be as open, as receptive as you can. That's really all you can do, is just be open, be ready. Nisha, you are handsome. Thanks, brother. Calvin, I'm planting seeds of the future. Does it ever blow your mind about plants? They might not know their own fruits, but within them, the secrets are known. May the dance of atoms entangle us sublimely. Does it ever blow your mind about plants? I try and connect to all beings, plants or animals. Tarini Nithyanandam, Elham Nithyanandam. Just scrolling through here, guys, just to see some more questions. Gratitude for your PVK video. Yeah, it is the best. Awesome, Rennie. I'm glad you enjoyed. Just scrolling through. Do you still get affected by Mercury retrograde? That's a good question. That's by Sham Woo Woo. I love the name. Do I still get affected by Mercury retrograde? The beauty is that Guru is above all else. And so even if I did cognize that I was being affected by Mercury retrograde, I know that I'm being taken care of by Guru. I would say I probably do get affected though. But when we talk about like being affected by Mercury retrograde and things that are happening with the planets and going through karma, I don't see that as something negative or something bad. It's something that's good. We should be going through these low periods as much as we should be going through the high periods. When we go through these dark periods of energy, it's an opportunity for us to release karma. When we go through these negative experiences, it shines light on patterns within us. And so I do get affected. I'm sure of it. But I'm always, I get affected by a lot of things, but that's a part of the path. And I think it's important to acknowledge that it's okay. And I think this is where the importance of Guru can't really be emphasized enough, to know and to always be held and be in that space of, safekeeping in a sense, because some people, they'll be really affected by these different planetary alignments to the point where they kill somebody or they commit suicide. And when you have Guru in your life as your guide, he's there. He's always protecting you, or she. They're there for you to guide you and hold that space. And so no matter if you're affected or not, Guru is, I can't emphasize the importance of that enough. Oh, dang, I just lost my spot, gang. Any advice on, I scrolled too far down. One sec. Sorry, everybody. Hey, how can I learn yoga? SP, I would say download first and foremost that book. There's a book, a link in the description, or not the description, the first comment. Download that book. That's the best place to start to learn, in my opinion, is learn what yoga really is, because a lot of people don't even understand, and they're teaching yoga. They don't even know what yoga really is, what the purpose of it is. And so to discover that, you don't need to go far. You just need to go to the scriptures. So I would definitely download the book, the free ebook in the description. Is it possible to find that physical book anywhere? So the books are in India only. Just for various reasons, I won't get into the actual logistics of it, but the books are only in India right now. So if you wanted a hard copy of the book, your best bet is to attend one of Swamiji's next programs in India itself. Sham Woo was saying, any advice on Sattvic diet? It's a pretty broad question, but any advice? I would honestly, I would need a little bit more depth to that question to give you some more advice. be a vegetarian. Don't eat dairy product. I don't know if you know what a sattvic diet is. It's only vegetarian foods. And so you're not eating any animal byproducts, which includes eggs and dairy in the West. However, you can consume dairy, such as milk and ghee, if it is coming from ahimsa cows, so non-harmed cows. Then milk and butter or ghee is okay to take. It really just comes down to integrity, though. Once you know what a sattvic diet is, it's just being integrated to it and being willing to cut out things that are not sattvic. And so integrity would be my word of advice for you. Mr. Lucas, have you ever felt a high feeling from watching one of Swamiji's discourses, or am I the only one? If so, do you know why this happens? Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. I could just like think of it, and all of a sudden I get this bliss shot. It's Kundalini happening. It's Kundalini flowing through you. When Swamiji is giving a discourse, his samana, his energy is flowing out of him, and you can actually absorb it, and that'll come in the form of words. Sometimes he can just be sitting there, and you might get that darshan and feel that experience. And so when that does happen, it's an auspicious happening. There's not much, that you can logistically say and give real solid science to back this, but it's just an experience, and it happens to me all the time. So I'm not surprised when somebody says that it happens to them and that it's happening to you. So that's awesome. Not everybody gets that experience, has that blessing, Mr. Lucas. Nikki Nithyananda. Elham is asking, will you make a hip opener video? Would be awesome. I got really tight hips. Nithyananda. Yes, I've been meaning to do that. I will do that. I'll make a video. Probably I might title it something like how to get into Padmasana or something like that. Okay. Where can we find the locations where Diksha will happen? Europe. So if you want to attend one of Swamiji's programs, then what you can do is go to, I'll put a link in the description or in the comment section after this video. I can't think of the link right off the top of my head, but if you sign up for the next Diksha, basically you put in your location that you're from, and then you'll get an opportunity to attend a center or a temple that's nearest to you. So I'm not sure exactly where you're from in Europe, but Nibi, Nithyanandam, can you do the videos in Spanish? Do you want to start Yoga Acharya? Do you want to start Yoga Acharya? I'm not 100% sure what you're asking there. But as far as doing the videos in Spanish, I'll see if I can make an adjustment on my YouTube channel to allow that. I don't speak Spanish myself, so I can't do that direct translation. If you're asking the second question, if you're asking about when the next Nithyananda Yoga teacher training or Acharya training is, you have to wait for announcements. I'm not sure when those are going to be announced just yet. However, just stay tuned. And the best way to do that is download the ebook, and then you'll be in the email database, and an email will be sent out to you. What Hindu text should I add to my library besides Nithyananda Yoga? Oh, if you're speaking specifically on yoga texts, there's one of the most underrated is the Yoga Jnanavakya, Shiva Samhita, Garanda Samhita. Obviously, you can read Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, but there's some that are just really not emphasized enough in the yoga community that should be, because they give the direct guidelines and basically how you should start a yoga class, how you should be, beginning and ending your ritual. And so there's a lot of things that, or a lot of context that's missing, that I think a lot of these different scriptures can help with. What I'll do is I'll actually type out each one of those and I'll put that in the description if you want to just download those somewhere else. And you can find them online as well. Harold, have you thought about installing a feeding tube? That way you would neither chew nor swallow. It might help you go to full breatharian. That's awesome. I've never really thought of that, Harold. But for those of you that don't know, I'm on it's close to 190 of liquids only. So no solid foods. And it's just this journey that I'm on to become a breatharian, to live solely off of prana. And I don't see it as a short-term goal. I've done various different videos on this. I don't see this as a short-term thing. I see it as a long-term goal, a long-term possibility, but it is a possibility that I know exists within all human beings. And so that's why I'm exploring that. And I've been initiated into a process called Nirahara Samyama. So if you don't know what that is, maybe I'll put a link in that description below as well. But it's basically an initiation into going beyond the body and going beyond food to maintain the health of the body. And so I've been initiated into that. It's a 21-day program. It's free. It's online. You can do it from wherever you are. And it's just this process to take you beyond food. And it was incredible. I've done that 5 times. And after the 5th one, I decided, okay, I'm just going to go for 108 days. And I went for 108 straight days. And after that, I was like, I'm just going to keep going. And so now it's day 190 or something like that. And it's been going pretty good. And so Harold's asking if I've ever thought about just installing a feeding tube. I have not, Harold. However, that's an interesting tactic or technique, but I probably won't do that. But yeah, interesting strategy. LM is asking, is there any more yoga combinations you recommend other than PVK? I recommend people working towards mastering PVK first. So I know with Pratama Vinyasa Krama, it's not the sequence that's going to make you like the strongest person on the planet. It's not the sequence that's going to make you the most flexible person. But it is going to develop the yogic body. It's the best sequence to give you that all around healthy yogic body. The way that it creates energy within you is incredible. It can't be compared to anything else in my experience. So work towards becoming more authentic with your practice, really performing the bandhas. A lot of people, when I talk to them, they're not really engaging. For instance, Uddiyana bandha is maybe the most common one. Sucking the stomach in and up as intensely as you can during the asanas where you're supposed to. Just that itself raises Kundalini like you would not, like, it's just beyond words. Like you can pull, I can just play with my Kundalini so easily right now. And I know it's because not just of Uddiyana Bandha, but all the various different 12 components just becoming more and more integrated, more aligned to the sequence itself. And I guarantee you, if you work to master PVK, everything else will start to blossom more. All the other asanas will start to blossom more because of that. Awesome. Okay, so that's all the questions. I made it through and before 1 hour. I appreciate everybody showing up here today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and hopefully you enjoyed listening to my story. If you have any more questions on that and like me to do another video on that, I'd be glad to do so. Just leave me a comment, and I would love to take care of those and answer those. And yeah, with that, maybe I'll close out with the Purna mantra right now. If you're new to the channel, I'd be grateful if you subscribed and hit the bell icon and watched some more content. I know that this channel is starting to grow quite a bit. Actually, it's about 3 years in the making now, and we're at 20,000 followers. So I truly appreciate everybody that is subscribed, and I'm sure you're enjoying it as much as I'm enjoying creating the content. So I appreciate you all. With that, I will close with the Puna mantra, and I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Alidhi Om Tatsat. Sarvam Bhagavat Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam Paduka Paramastu. Om Nithyanandam. Nithyanandam, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on future videos.